Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, distinguished senators, and honorable members of the House of Representatives, leaders of our nation, the Lords, spiritual and temporal, world media here present, very, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The discussion is on the Nembe oil spill. It is with deep concern for the safety of human life that I stand here to address you today, the 18th of November 2021. On Friday, the 5th of November, an environmental disaster happened. It happened at wellhead number 1 in the 29 OML in the Nembe area of the Niger Delta region of Nigeria. The wellhead broke and spewed out gaseous and liquid materials in two opposite directions, pumping a steady volume of pollutants into the atmosphere, into the waterway, and onto the land. The quantity of pollutants cannot be measured at this moment as I speak to you. But the operator of the wellhead, ITO Eastern Exploration and Production Limited, has described it as an extremely high order of spillage. This description by the operators gives an idea of the magnitude of the spill. It is really huge. The operator could not arrest the flow as a result of the high pressure. So the flow continues unabated as I speak. And the result is the massive degradation of the environment. This is characteristic of the neglect, environmentally unfriendly oil exploration activities in the entire Niger Delta region of Nigeria. For instance, in 2019, according to NOSDRA, there were 723 cases of oil spill with a combined volume of more than 41,000 barrels. And in 2020, there were 372 releasing more than 21,000 barrels into the environment. Nigeria fled 1.8 billion standard cubic feet of gas each day over the past 9 years. In this period, we have pumped 95.5 million tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. All this occurs in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria. The water is polluted, the land is polluted, the air is polluted, the region is choking with pollutants. The pollution destroys both aquatic and terrestrial life. Indeed, every life on its path. It upsets the ecosystem and causes loss of biodiversity. Some creatures have simply disappeared from an environment that has become so hostile for their survival. The environmental services provided by such creatures ceases. Gas flares pump poisonous substances into the atmosphere and cause phenomena like acid rain, soot, and climate change. But human health, of course, suffers most. When the deep water horizon spill occurred in the Gulf of Mexico in April 2010, we are all witnesses to what happened. Health surveys were conducted in its aftermath. It was found that clean-up workers and residents within 10 miles of the pollution site experienced a variety of health challenges, including respiratory ailments, irritation of the eye, the nose, the throat, presence of blood in the urine, skin irritation, central nervous system disorders, seizures, memory loss, and confusion, kidney and liver damage, hypertension, and miscarriages. Chronic health effects like cancers and birth defects and developmental disorders were anticipated. Part of the reason representatives in the National Assembly from the Niger Delta rejected the 3% equity payment to host communities in the recently passed Petroleum Industry Act is the harsh consequences of environmental pollution associated with the petroleum industry. Other parts of the country may enjoy the fruits of the petrodollars, but they do not suffer the terrible consequences that the inhabitants of the Niger Delta region do daily. We share the same vulnerabilities with the people in the Gulf of Mexico. Yet, no attention is given to the impacts petroleum-related pollution has on the health and physical well-being of the people. No health impact surveys are conducted in Nigeria. We are left to ourselves. We are sacrificed and oil companies are pampered. How can a nation willfully sacrifice its citizens, I ask? With the kind of terrible consequences petroleum pollution causes, carrying on with business as usual is genocidal. More people are suffering and dying of diseases hereditary as unusual. We cannot continue that way. We have to redeem ourselves as a nation. Remediating effect of pollution arising from oil industry is a costly venture, both in terms of time and money. The United States estimates that it will take more than 30 years to reverse the negative effects of the pollution in Ogoniland. That's a cleaning up program that will cost an estimated $1 billion United States dollars only in the first 5 years of that program. For other cases of pollution that do not attract this level of attention and no systematic cleanup program is put in place, the harmful impact remains for generations and generations yet to come. When carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere, as we know, it remains there for up to 200 years. So you can imagine of what happens to polluted farmlands where no remediation work is done, or how long lasting the effect of these dangerous pollutants may be in the human body. The challenges posed by industry-related pollution raise human rights issues. The right to life, the right to the dignity of the human person, and the right to a clean environment are all at stake here. Pollution reduces the quality of human life. People whose health is adversely affected by pollution will find it hard to live happy lives. They will be bothered by the consequences of another person's profit making and not be able to enjoy their lives to the fullest. This is so because it is important that we worry about our environment. It is time we stand up for the environment. We have to. There is no other choice. We must. In fact, when Obama was speaking in Kenya, he said that our environment is given to us in custody for generations yet unborn. It's not ours. Therefore, it is imperative that we worry about our environment. That also falls within the scope of the dignity of the human person. As a human right, some of the health impacts of oil-related pollution, as we have seen, could result in a miserable existence that takes away human dignity from the sufferers. Of course, pollution destroys nature's beauty and diminishes the value of the environment to man. Just like climate change is doing, pollution creates anxiety about the future. The sense of the of an environmental imminence of an environmental catastrophe and of being at the same time neglected in the face of painful suffering were at the root of the militancy that erupted in the Niger Delta in the 90s. The issues had been there since 1966 when Major Isaac Jasper Adagaboro started a revolution to liberate the Niger Delta from the Nigerian states. Though the amnesty program appears only to be a temporary peace, the problems that formed the foundation of those agitations still remain with us today. In fact, the 1957-1958 Wheeling Commission testifies to the injustice the Niger Delta people have suffered over the years. The problem that forms the foundation for those agitations, as I said, it still remains with us. If we as a nation desire justice and fairness, we must acknowledge that this situation is bad, very bad. We should not allow history to repeat itself. The petroleum industry, as you know, in Nigeria, is not new to the Nigerian people and even the government. It has been with us for more than 6 decades since oil was discovered in Oloibiri in 1956-57 in commercial quantities. Its negative impacts have also been with us for this length of time. Countries with a more recent experience of the industry have fared better than Nigeria. For instance, Ghana. How have they succeeded where we have failed? What has held us back in the march towards a more sustainable environment? What can we do to improve our bad story? First, I believe we must see the rich biodiversity of the Niger Delta region as a heritage to be preserved by all of us. When we do this, we will indirectly be placing a high premium on the health of the human inhabitants of the region of the Niger Delta. Second, we must improve the legal and regulatory environment. It is absolute that companies that operate with the same technology globally will uphold different environmental standards in different parts of the world. These same companies, Mr. Chairman, harness or inject into grounds 95% of associated gas in Europe, but harness less than 30% in Nigeria, leaving 70%. Just think about it. 70% to flare into the atmosphere. Our gas flare volume is the 7th worst in the world. Generally, the contribution of nations to the overall greenhouse gases in the atmosphere depends on the amount of energy they are using for economic productive activities. The higher the energy use, the higher the GDP per capita. That is the rule, and that should be. But it does not apply to Nigeria. Here in this country, we pump greenhouse gases into the atmosphere not because they are necessarily byproducts of economic activities that improve the economy of its citizens, but because they are rather byproducts of carelessness and neglect. Time and time again, we have set deadlines for gas flares in this country. We started setting deadlines in 1979. We have done that for 7 times and missed all of them with equanimity. The latest deadline is 2025. If the political will is absent, we will miss it again. And gas flaring will continue and our people will continue to face the enormous negative impact associated with gas flaring. Sticking to this deadline is a responsibility that the government owes to our people. Of course, the IOCs find it cheaper to flare than to harness the gas. It is cheaper for petroleum companies to pay stipulated penalties for gas flare than to harness and sell the gas. Why should that be the case in Nigeria? Penalties should be high enough to discourage breach and compel compliance. The technology for harnessing the gas is available to those companies and they should be able to deploy it. The value of adopting this technology should not be based on business calculations towards profit. The bigger the value to consider is the human lives that will be saved from unnecessary hazards. Business, as they say, should have a human face. It is interesting to note that Nigeria has committed to reducing carbon dioxide emission by 20% by the year 2030. Implementing the measures that will lead to this achievement will lead us along the path of environmental justice, equity, and fair play. Beyond 2030, we will be making further commitments for further reduction of emissions. If we stick to these commitments and make them a reality, it will be on our way to achieving environmental justice. We will be on our way to freeing our people from the life-threatening hazards of gas flaring and oil spills. But in the interim, we must face the challenges that we find on the ground. Our problems are basically centered around weak institutions, agencies of government that should work on behalf of the people and hold oil companies accountable to their environmental degrading the environment and hold them to environmental standards are finding it hard to play that role effectively. These institutions have a variety of challenges. Of course, we know that. Sometimes we cannot even get justice from our courts. Many times the courts give us less than what is globally obtainable for similar cases. Farmers in Bodo community in Ogoniland at the point had to go to the Netherlands to be able to hold Royal Dutch Shell accountable for pollution from their facility in Nigeria. And the company was asked earlier this year to pay 80 million United States dollars to the community. The question is, would a Nigerian court have awarded this amount as damages in favor of the community? I ask this question. In another case, where another set of impacted communities in Niger Delta are sued Shell in a British court, the company has strenuously argued to have the case transferred to Nigeria because they don't want justice done. The court, of course, rejected the arguments. But that alone reveals that the Nigerian brand of justice favors the polluters, while the European brand preferred by impacted communities, of course, favors the host communities. Our justice system has to improve to be able to deliver the justice that is comparable to what is obtainable in places like the Netherlands. The petroleum industry is not a small, isolated local industry. It is global. The quality of justice in the industry should be universal. Thirdly, I think we must improve our capacity to respond to industry-related pollution. ITO, the operator of the wellhead in question, what we are talking about today, stated that there was a joint investigation visit comprising the relevant agencies, but no action could be taken to stop the leakage. They had to mobilize assets from outside the country for this purpose. Think about it. That automatically means that the time within which containment can be achieved is extended, and in the interim, the pollution will continue, our people will continue to suffer, the environment will continue to be polluted. Of course, this is very sad. If environmental sustainability is dear to this country, we must acquire assets necessary for minimizing our losses and for promoting a safe habitat. Fourth, we must pay attention to pipelines and other facilities through which pollutions occur. The facility from which this pollution occurred is a non-producing facility. It was abandoned and uncared for, even though that could lead to the consequences we now see. Corroded and rusty pipelines crisscross the entire Niger Delta region. But when any leakage occurs, the IOCs will deny liability by blaming it on sabotage. True, there are cases of sabotage. But if pipelines and other petroleum-bearing facilities are properly maintained, there will be fewer cases of spills. There will also be less incentive for saboteurs to tamper with them. Our regulatory agencies must put in place adequate safety rules and must enforce them. The government agency responsible for detecting and responding to spills, the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, NOSRA, seems handicapped to perform its functions. It mostly depends on polluters for its logistic requirements. It is under-resourced and unable to fund some of its capital-intensive operation. This will not guarantee justice for the impacted communities. NOSRA should be limited to the job of regulating and enforcing standards. The oil companies should have primary responsibility for cleaning up pollutants they generate. It's their responsibility. Part of the condition for granting them license to operating oil wells and pipelines should be the possession of the capacity, the capability for remediation, and where there is spill or accident, they must be able to respond to them. It is in this vein that we believe that ITO, the operator of the wellhead, must take immediate steps to contain the spill. They must also commence cleanup exercise within the next 2 weeks. We shall otherwise ask the people to take legal remedy within or outside the country, as the case may be. This current incident should whip us into action. It should stir us into designing and enforcing a more holistic regime of measures to address the pollution problem and once for all. Therefore, I call on the federal government of Nigeria and its agencies having mandates on this matter to take all steps necessary for ensuring environmental accountability and justice in every aspect of the operation of the petroleum industry. In this regard, it is my hope that our country will act in the best interest of its citizens and give us good air to breathe, clean water to drink, and uncontaminated soil to plant in and farm. May God bless this country. Thank you.